Welcome to InCabin from the creators of AutoSens. InCabin connects the global community of automotive interior specialists working on in-cabin safety, comfort, and productivity solutions through industry-leading events and knowledge sharing. Today, we're speaking with Philip Russ, co-CEO of Simi, part of ZF LifeTech. And Philip, welcome to InCabin. Good to see you, friend.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Philip, can you describe how the integration of occupant classification and position impacts the performance of, say, adaptive seat belts and airbags during a collision?
Yes. One thing we have to understand first is that a seat belt is not just a strap that always works the same way. It can be adapted in the force levels that it has, and also, of course, in the firing times. And this depends on what kind of energy has to be managed in case of a crash. And of course, it's pretty clear that when I have a very heavy occupant that is probably far away from the steering wheel, it's a different kind of energy that I need to manage compared to a small occupant that has not that much mass and is very close to the steering wheel, just as an example. Adaptive actuators can change their forces and their timings to manage this energy the best way possible, but only if they have this information. This is where occupant monitoring comes into play, delivering information such as mass of an occupant or position of an occupant so that the actuators have a chance that in the event of a crash to adapt to this situation.
Keeping with that same train of thought, Philip, can you describe a little more in detail about what requirements this would generate for interior sensing?
Yes. As I just mentioned, the most important thing for the restraint system to be adaptive is to understand the energy it has to manage. Here from the interior sensing side, we have these two most important aspects: the mass of the person, because this really defines how much energy it will create when flying forward. And also the position, because this defines on how much space we have to manage this energy, to reduce the forces as much as possible. And of course, it also means that the requirement to the safety of that information is pretty high. Yeah, because if we get that wrong, we might not improve something, but make it worse. Yeah, and that's a very special condition for interior monitoring here, different to, for example, comfort functions or warning functions only.
Key challenges. What are some of the key challenges, Philip, that you face when you develop interior sensing technology for these adaptive restraint systems?
I think the two main challenges is, first of all, you always have to think the whole system. You cannot just only think about interior monitoring and what you can sense, but you really have to understand the restraint function and the system reacting to this information. And these are very two different groups, also in our company, that need to learn to understand each other. Restraint system engineering and perception development and occupant monitoring, really getting the system perspective here. And the second really big challenge, of course, is validation of these systems, because in especially restraint system engineering, we talk a lot about dummies because that's what in the end the system is tested with. But of course, we have to make sure it works in real life with all kinds of people, all kinds of appearances, all kinds of dresses, beards, hats, whatsoever. And we need to make sure that we know this will work for all these scenarios. And that's a hard job and an expensive job to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking with Philip Russ, co-CEO of Simi, part of ZF LifeTech. And Philip, just to again continue on this conversation that we're having, how does interior sensing technology do just what you were saying? How does it gather all of this data on passenger characteristics, beard, height, weight, posture? How does that happen?
Yeah. The most important one, really, we figured for restraint systems is the mass. And we do get that through different sensors and fusion of signals, whereas we use a lot the camera, which doesn't sound so intuitive in the beginning because seeing the weight of a person is actually pretty hard. But we invested a lot of time and a lot of expertise in getting such information also out of cameras. But we're also using speed-based weight sensing and some other advanced technologies to get the best signal that we can.
What advancements in sensor technology have had the greatest impact on the introduction of new technology for adaptive restraints?
It was for sure the introduction of interior monitoring with cameras and the advancements in computer vision, whereas this might not solve the problems for adaptive restraint alone, but it's a big contribution. And in the whole industry, it really opened the field for interior monitoring as the one most important sensor.
Philip, ultimately, how do you ensure that the adaptive restraint system provides the right balance, applying enough force to protect the passengers in an impact, but then you're also minimizing the risk of injury from the restraint itself? How do you make sure that balance happens?
Of course, that's the advantage of our company as ZF Life Tech. We not only work on interior monitoring perception, but really on the um, actuator control and the actuators itself. And we have large teams that make sure that with information from interior monitoring and the quality that it has, they can improve the restraint system, but on the other hand, still have safe paths, respecting that the information that they get might not always be perfect. And these are people really experienced in that and doing a good job on finding these paths.
Insightful conversation with Philip Russ, co-CEO of Simi, part of ZF Life Tech. Philip, thank you for being with us, for sharing your perspective, your insight, and your thought leadership. We're looking forward to seeing you in Barcelona for InCabin Europe 2024, October 8th through the 10th. I hope we get a chance to talk more about this, maybe do a future interview like this in the near future. But for today, thank you for being with us, friend.
Thank you very much.
For more information on Simi and to find out more about our upcoming events, see the links in the description. And for more in-depth interviews like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel and join the InCabin community on LinkedIn. In Detroit, on behalf of InCabin, I'm Carl Anthony.